Thank you all so much for being here tonight. My name is Isabella. I am the stewardship assistant at Georges River Land Trust. I've been with them for coming up on a year now, doing trails and stewardship work. And I am really excited to get to talk to these amazing trails and stewardship professionals who do work locally on Maine lands. I do want to start just by giving a little context for what brings me here today, and why I want to see more events like this happen. So I'm from Bar Harbor, born and raised, which is right by Acadian National Park, and amazing trails, amazing hikes. But actually, when I was younger, I hated hiking, and I hated, I was really uncomfortable in outdoor spaces. I hated bugs. But I was really lucky to have family members who took me outside, even though I was really uncomfortable. And I learned to find so much peace and joy in outdoor spaces, and I still do. But even once I learned to love hiking, throughout high school, I was really intimidated by trail work, and I didn't see myself in that field. I took a chance and applied to the job that I have now about a year and a half ago, and I'm so glad I did. But yeah, for a while I had this image of this, scruffy man, this hardened man who would build trails, and I just wasn't sure how I would fit into that. But I'm really glad that I gave it a chance because I have been loving doing trail work and learning so much in this job. Now, again, I'm so grateful for y'all being here, these amazing women here tonight. Far Everybody else is right. We have Kelsey Daigle from the Nature Conservancy of Maine. She is the Lands Relations Manager, and the office is based in Brunswick. And then we have Morgan Price, the Madomic Regional Stewardship Manager at Midcoast Conservancy in Waldoboro. And then over here we have Belle Maroney, the volunteer and outreach and volunteer and out. Thank you. The Stewardship and Volunteer Coordinator at Coastal Rivers Conservation Trust in Damariscotta. I promise I've been down there. And I know Belle very well. Thank you all so much for being here. And I will start just by asking, can you each talk about how you got involved in trail work and what trail work looks like and has looked like for you?
Shall I start because I have the microphone?
Yes. Let's start with Kelsey.
So I think I'm the elder of the group. I started in trails with the Montana Conservation Corps 25 years ago. I graduated with a wildlife ecology degree from the University of Maine in Orono. I'm from Maine originally. And I did a national student exchange in Montana, fell in love with it, and so I decided to go back there and join the MCC. And it was the absolute best experience of my whole life. I'm so glad that I did that because not only did I fall in love with working on trails, but I was able to see this completely new big landscape that I had never seen before. I led a Salish Kootenai tribal youth trail crew while I was out there, which was really amazing for tribal youth on 10-day hitches out in the middle of nowhere in Glacier National Park. Really fantastic experience. I then ran out of money and was living under a bridge with a backpack and had to come home and live in my parents' basement for a little bit. But I decided to go on with the work in trails and started working for the Maine Conservation Corps. And even though I grew up in Maine, in very northern Maine near Fort Kent, there were so many places that I had never been to. And that summer I worked in all kinds of different places in Baxter and Big Moose Pond and Portland Trails and numerous other places, and really fell in love with Maine again. From that, I went to work for the Bureau of Parks and Lands for Maine as the park ranger for all of Western public lands, which was, again, a really wonderful experience. And then started working in parks for a while. I was managing some state parks and took a little time off to raise my children. And then sort of like weaved my way into the Nature Conservancy, and I've been with them for over 10 years. My job as a land relations manager is to manage the lands in the Midcoast area, but also I do a lot of our Indigenous right relations work because I'm focusing on access, as well as our accessibility on trails. So I maybe don't get out on the trails doing the trail work as much as I once did, but just this morning I spent 3 hours on a trail before I came here. So I'm still doing a lot of trails here and there.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelsey.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hello. So, somewhat similar-ish story. I was in my early 20s. I think I was like only 21, maybe 22. Lived in Maine, grew up in Waldoboro. Wanted to get more into conservation and outdoor work and didn't know how. And I just did a Google search and found the Nevada Conservation Corps. At the time, I had never been west of the Mississippi, never seen a desert, never seen a mountain. Yeah, didn't really know what I was even getting into. And similar, the best experience I could have ever had with my life. Yeah, the trails, they take you everywhere. You just get to meet so many cool people from different backgrounds. There's so many different types of trails. Then I went more into conservation work, and then I moved back home to Waldoboro, Maine in 2021 and joined Midcoast Conservancy in 2022, and have been doing trail work there as well. And so I help lead our volunteer trail crew. So just wonderful community members like you guys volunteer their time and keep our trails open and accessible to everyone. And I also work with the Waldoboro Snow Crawlers, which is a snowmobile club. Yeah, very different types of trails and different types of crews, but just ways that communities can gather around something they care about and work together.
Amazing. Yes, I think we were talking before this started, and all of us started out working in Western Conservation Corps, so I think it's definitely a path that a lot of people take. For me, I got there, I went to school in New York City, loved the city. After 4 years, I never wanted to live in a city again. I also graduated in the pandemic year, so I was like, I need like an opportunity to get outside, actually be around people. So I moved out to California and worked on a corps out there, and like they said, it was like the best experience ever. I definitely was not convinced at first. The first month I was just like cutting down bamboo forests, and I was like, this is terrible. Like I'm falling into pits everywhere. And then somewhere along the line, I think I was like pushing a wheelbarrow up a hill just back and forth all day long. And I thought, I do actually love this. So that's where I got my start. And then I went to another corps in Colorado. And then I had family in Maine. So I came to Maine, worked at MCC as well, worked as an educator out on Hurricane Island, and always tried to like do little trail projects when I was out there, which was fun. But yeah, then eventually found my way to Coastal Rivers just over a year ago. So I work with a lot of volunteers too, take them out on trail days. We've just started that up for the season, which is amazing. It's like the best part of my job. So yeah, we're working on a lot of new trails. I get to be outside pretty much as I want, which is a lot of the time. So it's been really amazing, and yeah, very excited to see. I feel like Kelsey's had such a long career in this, so it's exciting. I'm excited to see where mine goes as well.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I did not intend this to be a Conservation Corps ad, but it's so cool to hear about all your experiences, and I love that you guys all did Conservation Corps in various capacities. Something that I was just wondering as you guys were talking, you all went out west. Did you notice like a big difference doing trail work out west versus coming back here to Maine and New England and doing trail work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the trails are a lot different out west. They've been built differently. The trails on the East Coast come from a time when they were just trying to get up, as fast as possible. So it's a lot of like fault line trails just going straight up the mountain. Whereas like on the West Coast, they were like, you're gonna build these beautiful bench trails everywhere you go. And then I came out here, I was like, this is not happening out here. So I would say it's definitely like a bit more of a challenge, especially like inheriting different trails that pose unique and fun challenges to try to address. But yeah, definitely the trails in general are different. I think probably some attitudes about like trails and recreation are also different out here. There's definitely a little bit of a cultural difference, I'll say. I don't know if
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything you said, I would feel, and it could be so out west. I was working more on like federal lands, and here, I'm working on a lot of local lands. So that it just could be that's the difference. Um, but yeah, I feel like out here, there are a lot of just kind of like, we just put a trail here and we've been walking here forever and we love it, no matter which way it goes. And yeah, out west, kind of like, yeah, there's switchbacks and like they're nicely treaded and the different userships. And yeah, kind of pretty much. Anything to add?
Just a little bit about the environment too. Like we have a very wet environment here, and on top of the fact that the trails go from the top of a mountain to the bottom, so that's where the water runs. It's like rivers going straight down mountains, which makes it really difficult to put in trail, um, what are they called? The
Switchbacks?
no,
Drain.
water bars, like
Yeah.
any sort of thing to take the water off of the trail is really difficult. I think of, like, I don't know how many of you have climbed Tumble Down, but that is just a stream going down from the top of the mountain. But the Maine Conservation Corps has been working there for years now and is putting in rock steps. And when I worked for the Maine Conservation Corps, that was the biggest thing, is putting in lots of rock steps. And when I worked in Montana, we did a lot of log and timber infrastructure instead of rocks. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys. I can definitely relate to the river, the unintended river of a trail. We've been doing a lot of drainage work this spring. So Spruce Mountain is now looking a lot better. Put some rock bars in and refresh the drainages. Yeah, could you guys tell me about one of your favorite trail projects?
Sure. I'm going to talk about the one that's happening right now because it's so big in my life. I have, for the past couple of years, been working on a all-persons trail in the Ledgewood Preserve, which is in Georgetown, which is also the town that I live in. And it has been a really exciting and sometimes difficult trail to work on. From working with community groups. So All Persons Trail is like an ADA accessible ODAG, like it just covers all of the bases so that we can get as many people of all abilities to this beautiful place overlooking the Sheepscot River, which at its entrance to the Atlantic Ocean. Absolutely gorgeous. Reminds me of some of the places I saw out west on the Pacific. And yeah, working with community groups and trying to get their buy-in, and then trying to get the permits and working with trail builders and getting the funding. And it's just one of these projects that there's like one thing after another, but every little thing feels like a win. For example, last night I was at the planning board for Georgetown and got the last building permit that I need for the observation platform, which is huge. And by the end of June, we're going to have this trail and observation platform in this beautiful place that I've been working on for 2 years. And it will be welcoming to people of all abilities, and it just makes me so happy.
Yeah, so when I think of like my favorite, there's plenty that I could choose from, but funny enough, it's one that was last year and it was a very simple task. So it doesn't always have to be like hard work. But on one of our trails, we had these beautiful, amazing glacial erratics. If you don't know what a glacial erratic is, there's huge rocks that were carried by the glaciers. And like one of these boulders is like the size of half of this room, just incredible. And it's right near the trail. But all this like new growth trees had come up and you couldn't even see them. You would easily walk by this giant rock like the size of this room without even knowing. Yeah, and then last year, me and the trail crew went out, and it's big work to take down a big tree. It's also a lot of work to take down like 100 little trees. So yeah, we just went in there and cleared like this nice area so that people can see the rocks and appreciate them and just get this like kind of sense of wonder where they are. And it wasn't even, yeah, a big project, but it was just so cool and to see that big difference. So in just a couple hours.
Yeah, I think I'll also highlight one of the projects that we're working on right now, also an all-persons trail. It's kind of, a short 0.3-mile loop trail. What's exciting about it is 2 of my coworkers went to a conference in Idaho a few weeks ago, and so they said there's no one else to work the machines. Belle, you get to learn. And so they trained me on like our fun little equipment, like our skid steer, our track dumper. And so I got to join our facilities assistant in making our all-persons trail, which is a lot of gravel moving and using this kind of fun machinery. So that's been really exciting and something that I've been like, I would love to learn if there's ever a time. So definitely, it's good to just keep advocating for yourself or just annoying people until they say yes a little bit.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, thank you all for explaining those.
Do you have a favorite project, Isabel?
Oh, that's a really good question. I haven't yet been a part of starting a trail from scratch just yet. But I would say some of the most satisfying projects that I've been a part of has been adding bog bridging in, like just some simple box bridges. There's something, really special about like adding your own artistic touch. Like there's one at the base of Spruce Mountain that I got to put in. And I'm really excited because we're looking into using, like previously we've just used pressure treated wood because it's light, it's relatively cheap, and it'll last, fairly long. But I'm really excited because we're looking, our trail manager is looking into using like trees from the property and using that as part of the bridge. And I think that'll be a really special touch. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, thanks for asking. Could you all tell me about some of the challenges involved in trail work? It could be about the trail process or, trail stuff in general.
Yeah, some challenges, I mean, kind of like what you were talking about in the beginning, it can just be really daunting to get into. I mean, there's permitting, there's tractor work, there's wheelbarrows with gravel up in mountains, and you're just like, wait, but I don't know how to do that. But you can learn. And the Corps is such a great way to ease people into this could potentially seem like a scary world. So that's one challenge. And then a big challenge that I face in my world is I've inherited a lot of trails and they might not have always been planned in the best way. Like maybe they go through a wetland and the beavers moved their dam and now it's a pond. But the community's been hiking here for decades and it is their favorite place to look at. And so that's the challenge as the trail manager and as the land manager, you're trying to handle what the people want and what the land wants and what the ecology needs. And you're kind of the liaison between the two. And it's fun. It's, make sure it's never boring, but it can definitely be a challenge.
I second everything that you just said. And then I would add funding. I feel like oftentimes the sexy projects are what get the funding and not the trail maintenance or like the moving of this trail away from the beaver pond up just a little bit so that you're not eroding into the pond. It can be really hard to find the funding. And also, I say this a lot, I cannot be an expert at everything. I don't have time or the skills to write grants for all of the money that is needed to upkeep all of the trails. So having people available to write grants would be great.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, one of the fun and challenging parts of the job is it is such like a people thing, in that conservation is about conserving wild spaces, but it's also about, having people who will fund it and having part of it is we want to get people out into these wild and special places. And so doing a way that protects the places while offering ways to get people out into nature and kind of walking that balance. And you're not going to make everyone happy, We have a person who hates us on Facebook and that's okay, I mean, one that keeps coming back. So, but my coworker, she learned about it the other day and she's like, oh my gosh, we have a troll. That's so exciting, So it's just knowing that if you're okay with what you're doing and you feel confident about it. But the people, it's fun and a challenge.
Yeah, well said. Bad press is good press. No, all press is good press. Is that what they say? So if you have haters, could be a good thing. I'm I'm curious if you guys could talk about looking ahead. Um, what changes might you want to see like in the future of the trails world and the Midcoast and even beyond?
Yeah, I feel like the first thing that comes to mind for me, it's kind of simple, but I feel like we're trying to get longer trail systems. I feel like where coastal rivers is, a lot of our trails and preserves are like pretty short distance trails. So it's like great for a little walk out, but it doesn't offer that like immersive, like I'm going to be in the woods for hours experience. And so I think we're definitely trying to do that and get longer trails so people can have that experience. And then also just more accessibility. So the all persons trails and increasing that. And, you know, even adding like simple things for accessibility, like putting braille on signs if possible, or, you know, I'm trying to think of other ways to make things accessible for more people to experience.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, looking ahead, what like changes do you hope to see, or it doesn't even have to be changes. What do you want to see in the future of the Midcoast Trails space, and or more broad than that?
Yeah. Oh man, I could take up the rest of the talk with this
Do
stuff
it.
of my hopes and dreams for trails.
I want to hear it, Morgan.
But I mean, kind of like banking off of what you said of like longer trails. You know, we do a lot of footpath trails with Midcoast Conservancy. But like I said, I also volunteer with the Waldoboro Snowmobile Club. And a lot of people don't realize we have an amazing snowmobile network, even here in the Mid-Coast. It's incredible, and it's multi-use in the winter, so fat tire bikes, cross-country skiing. And one thing that makes Maine really special, and this is not really, you know, we're so fortunate to have this aspect of Maine. Maine has a really big like public access culture, and even legally, you are allowed on all land unless it's posted. Like the base is that land is accessible, and then you can make it inaccessible. And that's really unique. You know, usually it's that all land is inaccessible, and you can choose to make it accessible in other states. And yeah, stuff's changing in Maine, and a lot of those trails, that's what's really nice to have trails that are on conserved land, because that trail access is protected. But so many of our trails go on private lands. And so just trying to advocate for the importance of trails and those longer distance trails, because it's hard to get in a more developed area, those really long distance trails, but we have some here in the area. Yeah, and just trying to work towards the importance of people realizing what they bring to the community.
Yeah, I had a volunteer tell me this week, he was like, I've gotten into the snowmobile club. I'm going to map out all the trails and give them to you. And I was like, that's such a good idea. Like, the snowmobile trails are amazing, and there's so many of them, and these people have been kind of like working on these networks for years. And so it's, yeah, accessing these places that maybe we just haven't yet.
Yes, and like focusing on the fact that snowmobile clubs or snowmobilers, ATVers, fishermen, hunters, we all love the outdoors. And if we could focus on what we have in common as opposed to how we think differently, we could get so much more accomplished. So yes, +1 with working with snowmobile clubs as well as those other groups. But what I was going to say is I think it would be really wonderful to get more young people on the trail. So I've been trying to work with the Outdoor Club. I say trying because I can't get them to email me back. At my high school in Bath, Maine, where both of my boys now go, to come out onto the trail with me and help me put some signs up and clip the corridor. And so they came out with me last year, and it was an awesome experience for everybody. They loved it. I think it's really just schedules that's making it difficult for them to get out with me right now. But I think that having some sort of like connection with the local schools to get more young people on trails, not only just like hiking the trails and looking at the really cool stuff, but also like this is how you drain water off a trail, and that's very important. You should be walking through the mud on the trail so that the trail doesn't look like 20-foot wide, exactly like that. You know, because you can teach kids things when they're younger that they're going to sort of just like grow up and know, and then share that knowledge with others.
Yeah, I love that. I love both things you guys were saying. I mean, with the snowmobile trails, I feel like we're constantly seeing snowmobile trails on our properties intersect, and it's really interesting knowledge to know, but we don't necessarily interact with those folks a whole lot, and I think there's so much opportunity for collaborating there. And Kelsey, what you were saying about working with youth, I know, Morgan, you mentioned it can be hard to get into the trails world and into, land conservation work. And I think starting it off by holding out a hand and saying like, hey, do you want to try this? Do you want to go out and try to do trail work and learn about trails? I think that's starting young can be so powerful.
Conservation Corps in there? Just wondering. I'm just wondering if any
Beyond
of
the main conservation corps, because that's sort of the youth conservation corps.
There's YCC in California. Like, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I don't think we have I don't know of one. If we do, feel free to holler if you guys. Should probably start one. Put on the to-do list.
There's a really cool program called the Wabanaki Youth and Science Tribal Youth Trail Crew that has been doing some trail work throughout the state on mostly on Wabanaki lands, but it's a really cool up and coming trail crew.
So as someone who, as you guys know, reflects a lot about my younger self and what I might want to tell her, I'm wondering if you could all share a message to your younger self. It could be about your career path, or you could take it a different way if you want. What would you want to say to her?
I'm smiling because I was practicing earlier with my 15-year-old, and I answered this question, and afterwards he was like, that is not going to work for any young people.
Well, now I want to hear it.
So what I would say to my younger self is that it's going to be hard, and you're going to go through some really hard times, mostly financially, but to keep going because it's worth it. I worked seasonally 3 months, 6 months, moving around for a really long time. And it, even as when I started working for state parks in Maine, I was a park manager working 6 months and then was unemployed for 6 months of the year. And I did that as a young mom. And I'm just so glad that I stuck with it, because I'm so happy that I do the job that I love every single day. I'm just so grateful. And the other thing I would tell myself is that you need to be better to your knees.
Well, you're just going to hear what Kelsey said, but in my voice. Yeah, I guess just keep going. Like all those days that when I was doing trail crew work out in Nevada, I had like 2 pretty big mental breakdowns where I sat on the trail, cried, and was like, I'm not moving. I can't do this. But I was like in the middle of a mountain on a trail. I had to go back to camp at some point. So that's the thing. You can't just quit when you're on a trail, because you're not usually just next to the car or the couch or the ice cream stand. You have to keep going. Yeah, and working seasonally and living out of your car. I loved it, but eventually it can be grueling. But just where it took me, the trail work and outdoor work and just everything I got to do, and not really realizing that everything was leading to me being able to I grew up in Waldoboro. I live in Waldoboro. I grew up running around in the woods with my dog. I do that. My dog comes on trail days with us. And yeah, like you said, I get to have my dream job every single day, and I'm so grateful. Yeah, just because I decided to get up from my mental breakdown and continue down the trail.
Yeah, I think very similar. I guess just at its most basic, you're gonna have a really cool job, and I don't think I just imagine myself working in an office. I feel just because I didn't think there was any other option really, and to know that oh, you're gonna get to spend time outside with really awesome people. My job essentially is being outside and talking to people for a lot of it, which I think is just really fun and just so cool. And yeah, there'll be times when you're crying on the trail to get there, but it's absolutely worth it. And also I feel like the people I work with and have worked with are absolutely the best people, like from all different areas. And I have friends like all across the country. I feel like I have someone to stay with everywhere I go. So yeah, the people you meet and the work you do is absolutely worth it.
I love that. Thank you. Morgan, you reminded me of a time in one of my first few weeks of work where I was on the trail with the weed whacker and all the pieces fell apart. And the bug started attacking me, and I had never fixed the weed whacker before, and I was just like, I'm not cut out for that. And then I got it together, and I put the pieces back together.
Isn't it so empowering?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, wait, you did it.
Yeah, and it worked, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can do more than I think I can do. I would also add, it's okay to do things before you know how to do them already. For someone like me, like yeah, you can try things. You don't have to be an expert.
I like what you were saying about the excavator. I have also run heavy equipment. Never, I'm like a conservation biologist. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be a heavy equipment operator. But yeah, then you learn, oh, I can do this. I can learn it. Even though it doesn't seem like people like you might be doing it, you can be the one to break that barrier.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and also how I learned to do it, the trails and facilities manager was like, "Have you ever played a video game?" And I was like, "Kind of." And he was like, "You'll be fine."
And it worked out. For those listening who might be interested or know someone who's interested in trying out trail work, what opportunities are there to get involved?
So many. I lead trail work days with Coastal Rivers. So we do kind of bigger monthly work parties, or I guess bi-monthly now that it's big summertime. So they're like putting in bog bridging, constructing new trail. We get a lot of people. It's super fun. We also do more weekly work days, just trimming trails all together. Invasive work, very lovely, very meditative work. And then also at Coastal Rivers, we do a lot of community science programming too. So if you're interested in, learning about aquatic invasives or phytoplankton or counting horseshoe crabs, we do a lot of that as well. So something for everyone.
Yeah, like ways, like you said, like the ways to get involved are endless. Reach out to your local land trust. They might know of some great options. And there's other trail orgs or like Conservation Corps. We just have trail days a couple times a week. So it's like, oh, I want to try it, but I don't really know. You can just try it once a week and see if that's good for you. And as we've been talking, there's a lot of types of trails. So I have like a older retiree trail crew, and we mostly are going out and like lopping, cutting trees, maybe doing some like simple bridge work. You can have stuff where you're out there with like excavators or doing masonry work or like felling trees on the property and actually constructing bridges out of them. There's trails and each trail should be designed for its intended use, and each trail then has a different little bit of a flavor. So there's mountain bike trails and ATV trails and snowmobile trails and footpath trails and cross country, and every little trail crew kind of has their own like vibe and energy. And so, yeah, even if someone tried it out once and maybe didn't like it, there's so many varieties and flavors to try. So
working for a really large organization like the Nature Conservancy, I think is a little different than the smaller land trusts in Maine. We don't have a volunteer program. We don't do volunteer days. That's not to say we have not. Like I worked with the local school and we did a project, but we don't have like a regular volunteer day thing. The Kennebec Estuary Land Trust, who has a lot of lands in the Midcoast where I manage properties, they have a lot of volunteer opportunities, which is great. I tend to go out with individuals, so people will contact TNC and they're usually directed to me. They're just interested in going out on a trail, so I'll take them out and hike with them and kind of get them really interested in that particular trail and say, hey, if you want to just come back here every now and again, do a little clipping, clean out this water bar, let me know if there's a tree that falls across the trail. That's huge for me because taking a whole day out with my chainsaw to clear a trail is a lot of work, especially if there aren't any trees down on the trail, like you're just thinking there might be. So if people are contacting me to say, hey, there's a couple trees, it's this diameter, you're gonna need the big saw versus the little electric saw, which is so much lighter than the big one, that is super helpful for me.
Awesome. I'll also add for Georges River Land Trust, we have a weekly stew crew, is what we're called, Thursday mornings. We do trail work and some stewardship work, and we also have like trail monitors, which, like you were saying, Kelsey, really helps. You don't have to, take a guessing game with taking a chainsaw all the way down the trail. And we have land monitor volunteer opportunities. So there's some stuff to get involved, even if you work a 9 to 5 and can't make that weekly stew crew. I'll also plug the Midcoast Heritage Trust, the Richard G. Rockefeller Conservation Internship Program. That's the program that I did. And that's where I first started doing stewardship work at a land trust. And it's for college students who are either have some connection to Maine. So you could be from Maine, you could go to school in Maine, and they pair you with a land trust in Maine, typically a smaller one that needs more resources and would love a seasonal worker. And that really got my foot in the door in land conservation work.
And I highly recommend to get involved in trail work, especially if you walk trails, and even, you can just be a trail monitor. Like Kelsey said, it saves us hours if you just call us and say, hey, there's a tree here. If you get involved in any sort of trail work, you will never look at a trail again. So there's your warning. You'll always be assessing and judging and thinking as you're heading down the trail and appreciating.
Absolutely. The eyes are real. So I was, last weekend, I was hiking down in Cutler, down east. I was like, oh, these rock steps are beautiful. And then I was like, why is this flooded when I'm looking at this water bar right now? And then I took my boots and I cleared the drainage and it was working. So it's kind of magical having the trail knowledge. Well, that's all the questions that I have prepared, and we have some time for the audience to ask questions to our panelists. So I have the microphone that I will run around to whoever has a question. I see one over here.
Especially as I'm getting older, I'm really interested in the accessibility issues. But also for some younger people that I know that have mobility issues. Can you talk a little bit about how that works for, say, a person in a wheelchair, or how it works for older people with some kind of mobility issue? What exactly is it that you do to make that better?
I don't know if any of you have heard of the curb cut effect. It's where when you cut into the curb to allow for wheelchairs, it also allows for people with strollers and people with any sort of mobility need, elderly, to use that same sidewalk. It's very similar on a trail. If you hike a trail thinking about every barrier that could get in the way, so a step up could be a difficulty, not only for someone in a wheelchair, but also someone who's blind and uses a cane, or an elderly person. I have torn my ACL twice now and have had surgery, so it was actually really eye-opening to hike my trails with a completely different ability, and made me a little bit more or a much larger proponent for making trails more accessible. Not every trail needs to be fully accessible. That's actually not what that community is looking for. But to make trails more accessible is really the big deal.
Yeah, and I guess for us, what that looks like for our trails is, a smooth surface. So we do layers of gravel and stone dust, so it's level. and then making sure that the grades are never above a certain amount for a certain distance. And if they are, having places for people to rest, so benches or places to take a break. So there's some, depending on what type of trail it is, there's different specifications that you're supposed to hit. Our trails follow ABA guidelines, so it's not ADA, it's ABA, so it's a little different. But yeah, just making sure that there's things in place for people who are differently abled so that they can experience it.
Any other questions?
Anything, we love answering.
Hello. So I was just wondering, you talked a little bit about kind of what you wish people wouldn't do. Like you wanted people to walk through the mud rather than kind of winding their way around and navigating around the mucky parts of the trail. Are there any other things that you're just like your trail pet peeves that you wish people would stop doing?
Also, like leaving dog poop bags. Like after winter, it's like the snow melts and suddenly dog poop bags appear. Like so many. It's kind of gross.
I don't know. Literally the other day we had a 2-lot park. We just had a little pull off, and there was a dog poop bag like right in the center, and I had to like weave the car around, and then I looked, and there was like another one hanging in the tree, and I was like, what was going on? I would say read trail signs because we put them up for a reason. And stay on the designated trail with the designated use. Anything else? Yeah.
Did any of you ever experience any pushback as women in a male-dominated field, or have people generally been welcoming and encouraging?
Because I've been in this field for a long time, absolutely. When I first started out 25 years ago, I was one woman amongst a sea of men. And maybe it wasn't pushback, but it was the dudes insisting that they do the hard work. They run the chainsaw, they move the thing, and me really having to advocate for myself, saying, actually, I've done the same training as you. Or then when I came to Maine from the Montana Conservation Corps, so I already had a lot of training and still was being treated that way, even though I had way more chainsaw experience than them. And that continued through my state parks years, just always having to advocate for myself. I've run a chainsaw now for 25 years. I know what I'm doing. You don't get to use the chainsaw. It has gotten better. It has definitely gotten better. There's a lot more women in the field than there used to be. I manage all of our seasonal folks at TNC, and a lot more women are applying than used to. And this year, they're all women, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I would kind of say I've also seen the similar change in the, like, yeah, it's conservation is kind of, I don't know, it's hard to make a blanket statement, but yeah, like majority women now, I would say, especially like the younger people. Yeah, and I've also worked in a lot of male dominated places, and I would say it's like I almost like dismiss it because like you almost normalize it because you experience it so much. But yeah, the initial dismissal and the way that I always handled it was just knowing myself and like knowing that what they said wasn't true, and not telling them that I could do it, but just kind of like take it with a grain of salt and just show up every day and show them that I can do it. And that's like always worked for me, because then they're like, oh, okay, you can, instead of me just like, but I can do it. Yeah, just kind of just knowing my own truth and being really confident in myself, and then and it takes time. Like, it's not like I just did one thing and then gained respect. And it does suck that you have to work harder to gain respect than maybe other people. But yeah, that has worked for me, is just show up and move that rock, and yeah.
Yeah, I think, I've been lucky, I think. Been only doing this for like 6 years, maybe. So I haven't experienced it as much, but like even as a crew lead, like on a crew, like the 20-year-old boy will absolutely like push the woman out of the way to like lift that heavy thing or something. And I've definitely had to like talk to them, be like, I don't want you to give them advice unless they ask for it. And I think it's just something that, yeah, it's still happening in the spaces. So like, yeah, being an advocate for yourself and the other people who you're seeing it as, we all mentor interns. So yeah, absolutely. But it is, I think, better. And yeah, I think it's a lot, conservation is woman dominated seemingly, but also like the trails and facilities are typically still men. So yeah, it feels like that's like the last area that's like not a majority women in conservation for the most part. So it's definitely still happening.
Kind of like to follow up what you said and off what I said earlier, but then don't use that like confidence to be like, oh, I'm going to move that rock to show them I can move that rock. Like, know your own limits and don't like use your pride. Like, ask for help if you need help. Like, it's okay to need help, but right, not the like people assuming you need help. The fine line. Oh, yeah.
Working with contractors or other business owners, if I'm there with a male colleague who could even be younger than I am, it's almost always the contractor or the business person will look at the male to answer the question. And I've had some really wonderful male allies in my life to direct that person to me and say, Kelsey's the one in charge here, you need to talk with her. So I'm grateful for the men allies in this world.
Yeah, I totally resonate with what you guys are saying. I think in my experience, rather than feeling like a lot of really upfront like pushback to what I'm doing, I feel like I see a lot of assumptions, kind of like how you guys have been saying, assumptions that I am not the one doing trail work, or that I'm, people, volunteers, I often get like, oh, that maybe I work in outreach or I work in a different area. People, when they see me out on trails doing work, they'll assume I'm like a volunteer rather than a staff member. And that my male colleague, who's the trail manager, without knowing our positions, they'll folks who might be using a trail will come up to him and ask him about the trail, when maybe I know the trail. I could just a little bit more, just because I've been on the land longer. So yeah, I definitely resonate with some of that. Yeah. And I'll add, I really love what you said, Morgan, about that really interesting balance of not like of trying to know your limits and like not doing something that you pushing yourself too far, because
I might know that from experience.
and me too, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great question, Deb. Thank you. Other questions?
Mine is more of a suggestion. So I'm a carpenter, and my dream is to have a carpenter Olympics. If anyone knows Hatchet Cove Farm in Warren, they used to have the Farmer Olympics. So with Carpenter Olympics, you'd have to like complete tasks like, like cutting a straight line, nailing things. But what I would like to see is the land trust having teams and competing tasks against each other.
Well, we're going to put this on our next regional agenda.
There would be like going like gravel uphill.
Right,
Seems like you guys do a lot of that.
Who can find the best fitting rock?
Yeah. Yes. How to redirect water.
Yes. Oh,
How
who can move like 5 gallons off the trail the fastest?
Who can
We're going to have fun with this one.
Who has the best tick prevention?
Does anyone else have lining? Yes. Yep.
They're real stylish.
Other questions?
Yeah, I'm curious to know, either as an unintended consequence or as kind of part of a plan or a scheme about wildlife passage, and how that kind of intersects with trails, and maybe like nature observations that you've had, or like ways that you imagine kind of culverts and passage and just the migratory and regular presence of trails of our non-human relatives out there.
Yeah, that is a great question. Thought. We are not the only ones out there in the woods, and trails do have an impact on the environment. And so that's something we really look for when we're doing trails. Like, should the trail go through the wetland with these really like maybe rare plants, or through like wood turtle habitat, and stuff like that. And so, or the trail density. So there's like this corridor of influence that like if you're walking or doing anything, you have like a 500-foot corridor of influence. So we try to not make trails really dense. So like we don't like spider web looking things. There are places for it. There's just also places where it should not be. So yeah, there's a lot of thought that goes into that. And also, why do we use trails? They're a really easy way to move through the forest. All the wildlife also use our trails. So you'll often see like the deer tracks, the turkey tracks, and everything like that. Yeah, and so we do try to avoid really sensitive wildlife habitats, pay attention to where we're putting the trail and what for use it's for. Yeah, and for like culverts and fish passage, just try to make sure that the proper structure is in the proper place for the proper function.
There is a really cool study that's just starting out, where I think it's someone from the University of Maine, could be wrong, who is doing bird studies in a place prior to a trail being put in, and then bird studies afterwards to see what the change is from before to after. And I'm really, really interested to see how that works out. We don't have any new trails going in, so I couldn't put one forth, but are you? That's great. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah, nice. Yeah. And something else I will mention is that I am a firm believer that dogs don't belong in every trail, because dogs have a much higher influence on wildlife than people do. The Nature Conservancy for a long time has all of our trails don't allow dogs, period. And we're starting to think about that blanket rule and think about the trails where dogs might be appropriate, because of they won't have as much influence on the wildlife. But also, if you think about dog feces and how that changes the chemistry of the land and the water where it is. It's a lot that goes into it.
All right. Thank you all so much for asking those questions. With an eye for time, we will wrap up here. But I know I'll hang around for a little bit. We got to be out of this room in the next 5 minutes, I'll say, to be respectful to the Rockland Public Library. But if you want to talk to me outside, I'll let other folks say that as well. Please feel free. And yeah, any other
Just thank you guys for coming and just like, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed and learned.